Honey, we need to chat.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of
Honey, We Need to Chat.
Yeah, we do.
The podcast where we believe that when communication dies,
Bad things happen.
Never.
We didn't even rehearse that.
Welcome. This is our chit chat episode, and today we're diving into a heavy topic.
And a relatable topic
and
for
a relatable
us.
Topic, yes, very relevant to us. Something we have navigated and also referred to on the podcast many times, which is burnout. Navigating burnout, supporting a partner through burnout, going through burnout yourself. We're going to touch on a whole bunch of stuff relating to burnout and practical tips on how you can help prevent and how you can help navigate those waters if you find yourself there. So stick around for that. We've also got a practical and applicable reality check corner at the end as well, also relating to the topic of burnout.
And while we start, because I always forget, please like, share, subscribe.
Yes,
any
do.
of those things. Just pick one of them, because that goes a big way in helping us and supporting us reach other people with this content.
Absolutely.
So please do that now.
Please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bonnie's just making yourself comfortable over here.
Yeah, she turned the light on before.
And she turned it off. All right, well, let's dive in. We're going to have a look through what burnout is. We didn't want this episode to be just fluffy and kind of light, because it's not a fluffy, light topic. And because we've lived it, we wanted it to be really practical and actually helpful. So that's the aim of today, that it can be real and raw and actually applicable to you. It's for anyone who's kind of been having this kind of niggling sensation that something might not be in balance going on in the background. Anyone who's experienced burnout or had a partner that's gone through it. It can be really different for each person. But basically, this is all because we've been there and we've experienced it, and we want to help other couples that might be experiencing it too.
Yeah.
So a quick definition of what burnout is. Burnout is basically the physical and emotional and mental exhaustion from prolonged stress. It often happens with work, but it doesn't have to be just around work. It can be life. And it kind of is a time where you feel pretty empty, overwhelmed, depleted, disconnected. You can find yourself feeling numb, and it spills into other areas of life. So if it does start at work, it often really impacts, it almost always would really impact your family life as well. And if it's starting just from, everything going on in your life socially and outside of work, it'll probably impact your work situation as well. So it's that overwhelmed feeling physically, emotionally, and mentally. Signs of burnout that you might find is constant fatigue. So you're always tired even after you've slept. Irritability and numbness in your relationships and how you're interacting with your family. I'm going to get Blair to share in a little bit how it played out for him when he went through burnout. Emotional disconnection from the people that you're closest to as well, just not being able to connect and just feeling that numbness relationally there. You have physical symptoms too, sometimes headaches, exhaustion again, sometimes gut issues and insomnia, really struggling to sleep. You can feel anxious, so your chest might be tight, feeling invisible or unappreciated, or just having this sense of something is not quite working or not quite fulfilling. And loss of motivation and joy, just not being able to see the joy in things regardless of how connected they are to your stress. So overall loss of motivation and joy. And when you went through it, and you went through burnout in 2020, right as COVID hit, do you want to explain a little bit about how it felt for you when you started experiencing it?
Yeah, and it was in the moment, like straight away, I was just so confused of what was happening, right? So, as we've mentioned before, I was in pastoral care. I was in pastoral ministry back in the day, and I've had a bit of a colourful background, and with that came like I was able to relate to people at many different levels. The one area where I really struggled to relate to people with was mental health. Like I just didn't understand it. It was just like, people would share about anxiety and I've experienced it before, but just not that crippling feeling before. And so I was always confused by people, what they were sharing with me and stuff until the burnout happened. So reflecting back on it, I could see the signs reflecting back on it, but during it, when it was building up, I didn't see those signs. I had no idea what was happening. But it was at a point where, so things were just really, really busy. Some pretty intense stuff was going on at the same time. And then COVID hit and our roles a lot of our programs became redundant.
Well, it all pivoted very quickly.
Yeah, it did. And so like, it was like, well, I'm doing all of these things, but now I'm only doing this one little thing because of COVID. And like everything slowed way down. And it wasn't long after that slowing down. It's like everything caught up and just hit me.
Yeah.
So I think it was about 2 weeks. And it was just so random. I was on the couch for literally about 2 weeks and just could not move. I was just like physically, I could not move. I was just crippled with anxiety and fear of I don't know what. And that was the physical experience, like this inability to move. But then it was this also mental inability to process anything. Like I was just confused. I couldn't put thoughts together. I was just so numb in my head, and it was such a horrific time for me because we just had our daughter too. Like she was only 6 months, 4 months old or something like that. And like I've had this precious newborn, and COVID, even though lockdowns were really, really hard, could have been an amazing opportunity for me to connect with the kids because I was more present. I was around. I wasn't going away for work and stuff. Like I was at home. But I was just so disconnected from everything. So it was a big physical crippling feeling and a big mental crippling feeling.
I remember in the lead up to your burnout, there were things, like you said, that now you can look back and see red flags or whatever. But I remember talking about them along the way, probably the last 6 months and that kind of thing, like overwhelm, dissatisfaction, just numbness, irritability, that kind of thing were coming out, especially in work.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I just feel like people just push through those things. We're like, yep, that's just normal. Instead of it being, and we've gotten better at this now because of what you've gone through.
Yeah.
We've been better at identifying, oh, hang on, this is not going in a good direction, and putting things in place. Like even this morning, we were having a conversation about putting things in place before it gets too overwhelming, because we can feel that niggling, brewing thing. But it's funny to look back and be like, oh, we were having those conversations. We were aware of all the little things. I think what we weren't aware of was how it was weighing all together. For you, it was a very sudden, like bang, burnout, like physical burnout. And it was obviously brewing from all of the stuff that happened, like you've just described. For some people, I think it might be a slow brew, like just like over time, you're just finding yourself more and more disconnected. That's definitely what I think I've experienced when I've gone through it, is more of like a overall numb, irritable vibe, disconnected vibe, and it slowly develops. But for you, it just was like real quick, instant. Yeah. So it's, again, different for everybody, but those kinds of things where it's not even easy to explain what's going on. It's just that there's something going on.
Yeah. And again, because we've gone through it, like, so we were having conversations today about our jobs. And so for me, I'm like, well, I can just see those patterns starting again, and it's just stress, man. It's just busyness. It's all those things sort of built up together. And when I start to identify it now, it's like it's similarities for the conversations we're having. I'm like, I just can't process. I just can't think through this thing. And then it's like, well, I can't put things in place to actually help me do what I know is going to help me. So like physical exercise, like I want to enjoy physical exercise, but because I've got so many things on my mind and I'm so like busy and stressed, it's like it's another task. And so navigating through that can be quite tough as well. And again, back then in 2000, like 2020, we just didn't know that. We didn't know that sort of stuff. Like you did just push through it, and then until you couldn't anymore.
It makes me think of there are mornings where I don't eat breakfast and I need to. And honestly, if it gets past 11, which right now I'm feeling it, if it gets past 11, I know I need to eat, especially because I've got medication I need to take. I cannot decide what to eat. It's like the further into the day that I get without eating, the less I can decide what to eat. So I put it off, and then it just becomes a snowball, which is obviously way minor. But I don't know if it's blood sugar or what, but it's interesting. It's the same sort of thing. It's like, I know there's stuff I need to do, but the further into this burnout or approaching burnout that I get, the less I can do those things, the less I can think clearly, the less I can process and put things in place. So there's a few reasons why burnout is hard to identify. One, if you haven't gone through it, that's going to be one overarching reason why it might be hard to identify. You don't know what it is and you don't know how to expect it. Like I said, I think we're better at it now. But there's a high functioning element to it as well. For some people, again, going to be different for everybody. High functioning burnout where you're still doing everything. So you're not crumbling, like everything, you're still doing everything, but inside you've got this numbness brewing, or you're still looking capable on the outside, but inside you're running on fumes. You're very empty. It's coming from a very empty, dry place. So it can be hard to identify because you're still doing everything that you need to do.
Yeah, and I think you just said before as well, it looks different for different people. Like I've heard of other people that have been in similar situations and their burnout looks very different. Like they didn't have, I literally couldn't work. I had to finish my job. And I tried other jobs. It was COVID, so it was hard to get another job in the first place. But we ended up moving out of the city, like out of Melbourne to rural, because I just was not coping. Like I just was so struggling with, why am I struggling so much, you know? And then I hear from other people that have gone through burnout. It's like, no, I just had to cut back. I just had to slow down. Like, I couldn't not just slow down. I had to remove myself. Like, I was very intense. So just hearing what you're saying there too, it's really important to understand of like, you know, what my experience was. That's not burnout, if that makes sense. Like it's not that
that's not what it is.
It's not what it is. It was my experience of it, but that's not what burnout is. There is that slow burn. There is that stuff where you just trying to slog it through internally. It's really, you're really struggling.
I would say though that your burnout was burnt out. Like you were burnt out.
Yeah,
I
true.
think for months before you were burning out. So it depends on as well where you get to the point. And definitely prevention is better than treatment.
Yeah.
So if you can see those signs, which is one of the reasons we're doing this episode, before you get there, it's way better because you can put things in place. So there's this other thing that it really frustrates me, and it's something that we've wrestled with a lot, and I wrestle with a lot, and I don't know what to do about it. But our culture has a burnout culture because our culture is so busy, hustle, stress, full lives, layering things. So you're not just going on a walk, you're going to walk with a podcast. You're not just working at home on one task, you're working at home on multiple tasks. There's just all these things that our culture just seems to be continuing to pile on, and it is burnout culture, in my opinion. It's just a culture of, it's good to be stressed. You're stressed, you're busy. There's almost like a pride in, I'm so busy, I'm so busy. And some people that are attuned to mental health would probably be like, oh, just be careful. But some people, the reaction when you're busy is like, oh, good for you, good job. Or like, you're working so hard, good job. And that's great. I understand where that comes from and I fall into it. But there is this culture of burnout where I'm slammed, I'm busy is kind of rewarded in our world. And so overwhelm has actually been normalized professionally, but also socially. If you think about social media, that is the definition of overwhelm. It's overwhelm of social stuff, and it's fake as well. It's not sustainable. It's not real. And I feel like that's the same with professional stuff. We're just overwhelmed and busy. It's not actually always real productivity. It's actually a lot of the time when you're functioning out of that, it's not as productive as it would be if we weren't so rushed. So that's another reason I think it goes misunderstood or not identified, because we're in a culture where those things are rewarded.
And I think the balance is something that's also just not for a lot of people at the forefront of our minds. And I think that's me now. Like I think the balance between work life is something that's really askew. Like, so if I think about it logically, you know, a typical work day is 7.6 hours a day, 5 days a week. I'm going to be spending more hours a day on work than I am with family or hobbies or whatever. Like, you know, where's the filling up of my energy and my, you know, rest and all that sort of stuff health. And my health. And like you're saying, you know, we're always busy. So it's like, all right, cool. Well, you know, 7.6 hours is usually work. Then you've got all the things on top of that in regards to kids. Then you've got all the stuff on top of that in regards to house maintenance and care and all that sort of stuff. It's like, well, actually, majority of our time is full. So this is where that balance really comes in place. Now, you might not get a balance of time back, like time spent doing, time spent resting or, you know, relaxation or, you know, whatever else. But it's like, but are we doing that at all? You know, that's a big question, because I don't think we need to it needs to be time for time. It just needs to be impactful and relevant and effective. And effective.
So another couple reasons, just quickly, why it might be hard to identify burnout before it happens is caretaker mindset. So you feel responsible for everything. If I stop, everything falls apart. And so there's no alternative. I think when you've got that mindset, it's, I can't stop and I shouldn't be stopping. The responsibility is there for me to be doing this. And so it leads to things like self-neglect and a quiet, like slow burn collapse, like we've spoken about. So yeah, feeling like you can't not do those things, I think is a massive trap.
Yeah, absolutely. If I stop, it's all going to fall apart. Like I can't stop. I can't slow down. I can't, let go. I can't give this to someone else. And that was a big learning process, I think, through that burnout period is like, actually, no, I can. It's like, cool, it might slow something down, but doesn't mean it can get picked up. It won't get picked up again later. So being okay with the slowing down of things rather than the ramping up of stuff or maintaining it like a fast pace, like of working and so forth. That was a big internal wrestle, was being okay with understanding where I'm up to, and I'm not a failure. I haven't failed was another big thing I had to try and work through. Slowing down is not a sign of failure. It's a sign of your care so that you can continue forward. Yeah,
exactly. And really close to that is guilt and comparison. So others have it worse, so I shouldn't feel this bad.
Yeah,
others are doing more than me, so why would I be overwhelmed? Guilt from keeping you from talking about feeling overwhelmed or feeling like putting things in place, kind of like, if I slow down, someone else has to pick it up. Or if I slow down, I'm just dumping it on all these people, and burnout feeling like a failure instead of just a signal, which I think is really hard to distinguish between.
Yeah, and being in a leadership position, which I have been in for a number of years now, that's the other layer as well. Is like I don't want to fail them. Yeah. So it's not just to fail a task. It's like I don't want to. My role is to make sure that they can do their role. I can't give anything else off if they're struggling, or I want to make sure that they're not. I'm the leader. I need to be taking this and stuff like that. So it's a whole other level of guilt and pressure, I guess, that we put on ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you share your experience of that time too? Because you had burnout after my burnout, and that was really tied up to my burnout. So why don't you share your experience?
Yeah, I think, when it happened, it was just survival mode. So it's like, we just got to get through this. There definitely were, so there was immediate time where you're on the couch. Then there was kind of the recovery, which took a few years, but the first 6 months were probably the hardest part of recovery. And also it was in COVID, so who knows what it would have been like outside of that. But there was definitely times in that where I was just like, there was a lot that I had to do and manage.
So you did my job. I couldn't do my job. You stepped in and did my job.
Yeah.
Plus look after the kids, plus like dinners, everything, everything. You did everything. You didn't just do more, you did everything. I did nothing in that time. In those 2 weeks.
And it was definitely not resentment then. There was times where I was struggling with having to do that because there was no option. But that's part of relationship. That's part of marriage. That's what you commit to, is you're there in sickness and in health. And it's not only if the other person's coming to the table the same amount. It's like you're there to make the family function. So I was really aware of that. But yeah, coming out of that, there was a delayed burnout for me because I rode that wave and came through it. And then there was I hadn't worked through how overwhelming that was, I think. And there was emotional stuff there too. It really triggered, like whenever you feel low. I'm much better now, but for a little while, if you started to feel low or you had an off day, it was really like stressful for me because I was like, oh, here we go again. It's going to happen again.
Do you think that during my burnout and you were doing all those things, do you feel that you were like pretending to yourself that it was okay? You're trying to convince yourself that you're doing okay. It's like, well, I've got to hold this together because if I don't, it's all going to fall apart. I
don't know if I was pretending I was okay. It wasn't until, same probably as you, when COVID hit and everything slowed down is when you realized. So it probably wasn't until I had to take my foot off, or I could take my foot off the accelerator, but that I realized how overwhelming it had been. So I think I was okay. The other thing that was kind of horrible was we just didn't have, because of COVID, we didn't have access to the same supports that we would have had in a normal year with family and that kind of thing, even though we did figure out ways to get around the rules. We were in Melbourne, which was a horrible lockdown. Yeah. I think probably the part that was the hardest for me was your change, your very, very sudden change in how you reacted to the kids. And that's something that we've worked through for years. Yeah. And it's so different now. But yeah, it's I think when you're navigating it as a partner, you need to be able to navigate it with grace, because it could look like, I was already stay-at-home mum at that stage. So you not being able to get off the couch and not working, and then me doing everything could look like even more. He's just like, not, you were never disconnected, but even more, I'm responsible for everything.
Well, I was disconnected. Like I couldn't connect.
No, before that, I mean, as in like you were connected and involved dad before that. So it wasn't like even more I have to do stuff, but it could look like from surface level, he's being lazy and I have to do it all. Or he's tired and upset and I have to do it all now, which it didn't. Thankfully, I didn't have that. It was like sudden. So it was very clear that something was just not right. But I think as a partner navigating that, it's really important to be curious and open to it, because otherwise you might find yourself in that pattern where you are just resenting and like, yeah, it's okay for you to collapse in a heap, but now I'm left picking up these pieces. And having that attitude is not going to be helpful for anybody, for yourself or for your partner that's going through it.
Our full awareness of your burnout didn't happen for like 2 years later or something. It was actually quite a while later that you started being, do you think it was maybe you starting to be okay or giving yourself permission to be burnt out, or you started to become more aware of it? What did that look like for you?
I think there's probably a few things, because I was working by that stage as well. So probably trying to keep the same momentum, but not having worked on the emotional stuff. And yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. Mine was very slow. So I don't even,
a lot slower.
I can't even reflect back to a time when it was. I just know that
And I just remember there was at a point though, and you were being so serious. You're like, because a lot of times that you'll process stuff and you kind of like, not dancing around it, but you're uncertain. You're like, oh, just struggling, and you're not really sure why. And it started getting, and then you just got to a point of like, I'm burning out. Like I can't process. I can't do this. I need help here. I need you to take this. It's like this more of a plea or a cry for help sort of a thing. It was like, I cannot do this. And then we had to have the conversation, because I think we're both in that place with my burnout and your burnout of like, well, no, you need to get help. Like you can't just sit in that, because especially me being on the couch for 2 weeks, a big turning point was when I started seeing a counselor of like making sense of my situation, but wasn't just making sense of it. It was literally giving me tools to deal with it. Because up until that point, I'm guessing my way through it and I have no clue. Then I get more frustrated and more down and more anxious. Like, is this me forever? All that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that was the same with you, where we got to a point of like, you need to see someone. You need to do something about it, because we are not equipped with the knowledge of how to actually go through this situation well. It was a hard time for me because, I mean, obviously it was a hard time for you because you're going through the burnout. But for me, I'm like, man, I've done this. Like this was because of my burnout. This wasn't an external thing now that I'm observing. I'm like, oh man, I wish I could take this from you. I did this, like not intentionally, obviously, but that was the other part of wrestling with that I had to definitely work through as well. Of like, cool, well, I can't change that. There's nothing I can change about this, but how can I support you in this now?
Yeah. I don't think you did it, by the way. I understand what you're saying, but just to clarify, it wasn't you. For one thing, when you're in relationships, there's going to be things that we do to each other that we're like, ooh, yeah, I am at the middle of why that's overwhelming. But it's also family rhythm. It's family priorities. It's culture we fell into. And it's also the stuff around your burnout that led you to that too. So it's not as simple as I did this. No, I understand.
Yeah, these are the things that I was processing.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Just to clarify that one. All right. So that's this, again, all different for everybody, but these are some of the reasons why I feel like burnout is hard to kind of identify until you're in it. And unfortunately, when you're in it, it's a lot more hard to navigate it than if you were able to put things in place slowly along the way beforehand. So we're going to jump in and we're going to talk about what to do if we do start to feel these things brewing. But first, we're going to take a little break.
Hey guys, we just wanted to take a little break right now. And we just wanted to say, don't forget, check out our website, honeyweneedtochat.com. There's a lot of free resources on there, many tools and blog posts to help you go deeper into the conversations that we're having today and other episodes as well. So don't miss out on all of that. There's behind the scenes updates of us and our story, but also just solid tools for you and as a couple and as an individual to work through some of the things that we're talking about. While you're on our website, go sign up, join our email list. You'll get a bunch of updates, resources, and just some cool things to be able to come straight to you. There's no spam. We're not trying to be spammers. We're trying to be equippers and equip you with the tools that is going to assist you in the things that you're going through.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thanks,
back to the
guys.
episode.
So here's some things you can do if you're starting to feel like you might be going down this path, or you're even identifying that in your partner, that there's just an increasing sense of burnout happening. This is before you're burnt out, what you can do to try and put things in place to slow down. The first one is to say it out loud, to actually vocalize it. And I would say for me, when I've felt like I've been heading down that path, having the conversation has been one of the most impactful things that's turned it around for me. just kind of the stuff that sits in our head loves to sit in the dark and fester. And once you can kind of communicate it out loud, honestly, it just loses a lot of its power, which is really helpful. So the next thing is you're feeling like you're overwhelmed. You're feeling like you've got too much on. You might even not know what it is that's weighing on you. Sometimes I find that really hard. So for one thing, sitting down and just taking stock of where you're at is really helpful. We've got a resource on the website called the Wheel of Relationships. But it's basically a wheel of life exercise, which is a really common coaching tool to help people just look at a visualization of where their life is balanced. So they go through a bunch of categories and then rate it to see how they're feeling. So if you're sitting there like, I don't even know what's feeling heavy, something like that could be helpful for just kind of getting a bit of clarity there. But the other really important thing is to sit down and figure out what is something that I can cut down on or slow down on it. And I think with this whole culture that we have of this rush, busy burnout culture that's going on, you can feel guilty or like it's not appropriate to pull back on things. And I think that's really unhelpful as families, especially relationships, couples. It's really unhelpful to feel like you can't pull back on anything. But there's this element of just being like, okay, we can't keep going this way. What's the cost if we do keep going this way, for one thing? And two, so many things we do is not worth the additional pressure when you're already feeling low like this. So sitting down and cutting something out or delaying something, canceling something, or just saying no to something. There are so many things, I think, if we looked at it objectively, there'd be so many things that we do every single day that we don't need to be doing or we don't need to be prioritizing at that point.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be something big.
No.
You know, if you're feeling this stress sort of building up and this fogginess of like, well, I don't know what I'm feeling. Just start with something small, like a small thing that you can just stop. Whether I can't give you any examples, but you just think through what's something small that can give just one thing. What can I stop? Because then that's just one less thing on your shoulders, and then you're going to feel that weight like be removed, and then you can like slowly add more things to that list and help you process that. But you know, because this can otherwise be quite overwhelming to do. Of like, well, no, I can't give that up because this affects it. Well, it's like, well, cool, just do one small thing. Yeah,
and I think as well, a lot of the time, the things we have on our plate feel and sound like good things. And we've got a phrase in ministry, which is Christian related, which is it a good thing or a God thing? Because a lot of people will mistake something that's a good thing as something that God wants them to do. And I think it's a similar concept here where, is it a good thing? That's just a good thing objectively, or is it an appropriate thing for me to be doing or putting my time into? And there's a balance between not everything that's a good thing objectively is going to be a good thing for you right now. So taking that moment to be like, maybe it's not required of me that I attend all these different meetings or I'm on these different, like in these different groups or social things or whatever is going on. You know, you've got multiple activities throughout the week. Maybe one of those isn't necessary or isn't good for me right now. So just taking that time to assess and think about what it is you fill your time with and what might not be needed right now and that you could take a break from or just pull back. The other thing is prioritizing sleep, nutrition, and movement, which is, like we've spoken about, really hard to do when you're in it, but a game changer, like can be the game changer for some people's mental health.
This is what changed my burnout.
Yeah, it did.
It literally was. So I couldn't do this. Like I really had to rely on Amy, which is again not a proud moment of mine, but it just was what reality was. Amy essentially forced me out the door to go for a 2-minute walk. That's what we started. Was like a 2-minute walk just to get outside, get off the couch, get outside. And we went for a walk as a family. Like it was literally 2 minutes. I think I was numb the whole time. I don't think I said a word. But getting out in the sunlight, moving was such a huge thing. And then from there, every day I went for at least one, if not 2 walks a day, because I just the importance of that was, I just saw it straight away. Yeah.
I'll say when I'm feeling low generally, not super, you know, at dire straits or anything, assessing whether I'm getting enough water, if I'm getting enough sleep, which is never, if I'm eating well. Like there have been times where I've just been like, I need to go sit outside on the grass with my feet in the grass and eat an apple. And it's like, I've just eaten so much disgusting food for so long. And especially when you are in survival mode, it's hard to prioritize. And it's also a lot of work to think about what's healthy and that kind of thing. So just if you have not taken stock of where you're at with those things, they are not only an incredible starting point, a lot of the time they'll be the game changer for where you're at and turning things around. And moving might not be, it's not my go-to. So me telling Blair to go for walks or helping him go for walks was not my go-to, but it was necessary. Sometimes it's just about that. It's about getting what you need in there to fuel your body so that you can at least start to think more clearly about what's going on. Another option we have here is just in your relationship, or even by yourself if you need to, taking a 5-minute anchor chat and just taking a check-in, assessing what's feeling heavy for you today. Talking about that with your partner is really good. We've spoken about this before, where it's like, it's hard if you've got these open-ended questions and they have to kind of come up with some big answer, but just saying what feels heavy for you today. For most people, it's easy enough to identify something that might feel heavy. What has helped you today, or what could help you today, is another thing to check in. And what do you need from me tomorrow, or what would you need tomorrow in order to feel better? Having those little practical, not open-ended questions to check in and see what it is that could help and what it might be that's weighing on you can be really helpful. As a couple, it's really important when you're navigating this with your partner that you're a team together too, because if one partner is going through this and they feel like they have to implement everything and it's a burden to the other person, it's going to be really tough. And saying no together as a family to things like when you're figuring out what to cut back on, I think that's really important. We couldn't, COVID helped, I'll put that disclaimer out there, but we couldn't just keep doing what we were doing as a family. It wasn't a matter of Blair had to step back from what he was doing. We had to assess what the family rhythm was. And that includes not just obligations and jobs and work and social stuff. That includes like how we live. Like we couldn't just keep living the way we lived without intentionality, without making space for movement or without making space for rest and that kind of thing. So doing that as a family and practicing saying no is actually not a bad thing to do. Like it might feel bad, but it's not a bad thing to be like, no, we're not going to put that on our plate this semester. We're not going to consider joining this for right now or adding this to how we're living day to day right now, because it's not going to be helpful or healthy for us. And then this is a really cool one, is choosing one burnout buffer each daily. So find something that gives you life, and that can be walking, podcasts, solo time, journaling, meditation. Finding one thing that is a burnout buffer that each of you can have every day. It's a non-negotiable. Every day you get your 20 minutes to go for your walk. Every day you get your 20 minutes to do your relaxing shower with your meditation music, whatever it is that's a buffer for you to get some break in your day. Make that a priority within your relationship.
Again, it can be something small. So this has been a big thing for me too, is like, everything feels like a task. If I want to have solo time, if I want to go for a walk, if I want to journal, it all feels like a task. And so the best thing is like, what is achievable and maintainable at the moment?
Yeah.
If it's 2 minutes outside, take 2 minutes outside, and you start there. You're building the rhythm, you're building the habit, and you'll grow from that point. But so don't stress too much don't let it stress you or overwhelm you of being another task. This needs to feed you, not drain you.
Yeah. For example, my thing that I love doing, and I haven't been doing it, is having a coffee in this front room because I love the sun in the morning. Something about that. Just I have a coffee every morning. So instead I could sit here and have my coffee with nice music, and I just haven't been doing that. So yeah, it doesn't have to be complicated or a big thing, just something that feeds you and gives you a little boost and a buffer. So then we're moving into, if you're already feeling like you're at burnout and it's at that stage already, the first step again is just to speak it out. Don't downplay it. Don't try and make it less than it is. It's really important to be honest with your partner and or with someone else that you trust, just to be able to verbalize that. And even for yourself, I think a lot of time we're not honest with ourselves about what's going on. So saying it honestly and clearly, even if it's messy, is really important. And then stripping right back. So that is canceling, delaying, ditching non-essentials, figuring out what you need to be doing and figuring out what you don't need to do. And that includes asking for help, figuring out who you have in your life that can assist with those things. If this was us now, how can we get regular help every week from our family around that, could help us with the kids or could help us with cleaning if cleaning feels too much, those kinds of things. And going into maintenance mode, food, sleep, basic connection is also, I think, sometimes really necessary, and it was for us. Yeah. Thankfully, COVID again made that really easy to go into maintenance mode. We didn't have outside obligations for a while. We've been talking about eating well, getting enough sleep and that kind of thing. I do feel like there's a lot of grace there too, where it's like, things like if the idea of making dinner is just so much, relieve yourself of that for a little while. Be like, we're going to get takeout this week, or HelloFresh or something like that. We're going to find a way that we aren't cooking, or we'll ask for help in that space. But you don't have to be like, yeah, but if, like we've just said, be healthy. But then if that idea is too overwhelming, that's not the most important thing. That's just to help you. So figure out
season.
It's just a season.
It's just a season. It's maintenance mode for a season. It's not maintenance mode forever.
Yeah. And there are so many things, so many resources available that should be able to help make that more doable. We really went into survival mode and our rhythms weren't great. When we started to bring our rhythms a bit better, we felt better. But I think that survival mode was really important for a time. The next thing is to rebuild tiny rituals. So choose one restorative habit, which we've kind of spoken about, which is things like going for a walk or having no phone at your rest time, saying, I see you daily to your partner. So just identifying with them, like, I see you, I'm with you, little touch point, nothing deep, but just being there, being present. Reflecting before bed about what's going on. You can do a little quick reflection about what's feeling heavy, what's feeling good, and what would help. Just having that little touch point. I think when you're navigating this as a couple, it's very easy for a relationship to go out the window because it's, again, survival mode. So having those moments where you're still able to connect without the pressure of it being some big connection, I think is a really helpful thing. Stability, not thriving. We're not aiming for thriving. Thriving can happen later when you've rested and you're feeling better. This is about stability and survival. So finding something that is a habit that's going to bring you life. And that walk was huge for you. Meditation was huge for you. And that's something that we're talking about, you getting back into just having that meditative time to reflect on what's going on, how your body's feeling, and kind of get a little bit more grounded again. That was a really huge habit for you as well.
Yeah.
No phone, I think, is a big one for me as well when I've felt overwhelmed. Like phone, it might feel like a distraction and it might cover a lot of stuff, but it also is, it's a layering thing again. It's busy, it's loud, it's distracting in a negative way a lot of the time.
And I leave my phone in my room when, most of the time, not every time, but I leave it in the room when I'm feeling overwhelmed or whatever. Yeah. It's like, any message that comes in, it might not be work related or whatever, but it's just, again, that constant, it's pressure, communication.
And under all of these things, I'm going to say it again at the end, but I'm going to say it now because it's important. Get help. Like there are so many resources. We've got resources that we know about right off the bat. Within 24 hours, you can have support from a counselor. And then also, there's long-term support you can get that can be and is priceless. Even just having that person that's qualified and is listening to you can be a game changer for this. And it was your game changer, and it can be a hard feeling to think that you need support more to prioritize that time when you're already feeling like you're putting a lot on the family, but it is so important. It can change the situation for you. So just some quick things as well. If you're supporting a partner going through burnout, which is what I navigated and then what you navigated later, there's a few things as well to keep in mind. Listening without fixing. It's really hard to not want to fix. It's really hard. And it's interesting because I did say go for a walk. So that there's some stuff like that where you might have to step in as a decider for your partner almost, but being able to listen without it having to be like fixing or correcting or even going to problem solving with them can be really helpful, because otherwise it just adds to that weighing on them. The next thing is to be calm and not be the cure. So not having to fix it, like we've just said, but being the calm. So what I stepped into was I navigated the kids. Yeah. I navigated the house as well as I could.
But you were the calm, but it was also, and that was really great. It's just like, you didn't put that pressure on me of like, figure it out, like, get better. But you did actually challenge me of like, yeah, but what are you doing about it? That was a question and I think that's a very important question, because we can just sit in this space, right? Yeah. We can sit in the stress, we can sit in the busyness, and it can really impact us and it can impact those around us, right? And we don't want that. And so, yeah, you did have that challenge, and vice versa. When you were struggling, so you said you were struggling with burnout. I'm like, sweet, we know the drill now, like, because of through mine. You've got to do something about it though.
Yeah. So being the calm to reduce the things that might add overwhelm. So the house, the chaos, like I took your job when we first started. Probably doesn't work for everybody, but it did for us. But then the next one is to reflect patterns gently. So that's sort of what you've just said, reflecting like, I noticed you're not going for your walks and they're really helpful, so I think you should do that. Or I noticed you're not, going into the room to do the meditation that you find really helpful, and just kind of reflecting those things that your brain might just feel a bit too starved to make those decisions yourself. Ask how to help ask what feels heavy. This person might struggle to even know what would help, which I think probably would have been the case for both of us when we went through it. But asking what feels heavy that you could take for them and what would make life 10% easier. That's probably a higher level conversation to have. But yeah, just seeing what you can take, again, to add the calm, basically. Don't disappear in their recovery. So don't disappear yourself while your partner is recovering. And this was hard because it did feel all consuming, but it's really important to try and keep your own rhythms and your own well-being as well as you possibly can at the same time. It's easy to disappear into the process. So keeping your own rhythms, your own connections, your own support networks, and having that so that you aren't just disappearing and being sucked into this, which is then going to result in either both of you really struggling or, like we had down the track, I really struggled because I didn't have that in place very well. So just trying hard, although it doesn't feel like the right time, to make sure you've got those things in place still. And just reassuring them that you see them, that you love them, that you're there for them, that they're more than their productivity, especially if it's a burnout from work, or that they're more than this identity of work. And this, I think when you burn out, an identity thing happens. So it could be work related. So like, I can't do it. And it's become your identity. So then you're like, who am I?
Yeah.
Or it's your family or whatever it is that's doing that. There is a lot of identity stuff. So you being that calm, reassuring constant that just reassures them of their value regardless can be really helpful, and saying it over and over and over.
Yeah.
And then care for yourself, like we've said. Name what you're carrying. It's really important. You're carrying a massive thing. Don't minimize your exhaustion just because your partner also can't pick it up. I think that's where you call on your support networks. And there's times where I called my mom and I was like, I need you to come stay here with the kids, because we weren't allowed to go out. Stay here with the kids, and we're going to go stay at your house for a weekend because the kids weren't sleeping either. It was horrible. So, and I remember crying to her on the phone because I was like, I'm so tired, mostly because our daughter was not sleeping, and then everything else. And so just like being aware of that and naming it for what it is. It's not something to be minimized because your other partner is struggling more. So you're still struggling. And do set little micro boundaries, like I just need 20 minutes alone first, or I went on walks when we started doing individual walks after a time, and then I started prioritizing that as well because I needed it.
Yeah.
I needed times where I needed to just go to the bathroom without the kids like chasing me around, or, be able to just cook and
so you'd put your headphones in when you'd cook. She's
exactly.
like, this is my space.
Exactly. And like worst case, you could just put a movie on with the kids if it was too overwhelming for you. But I needed those things as well. Let someone else hold you. So lean on those people. It's so hard to ask for help. It's really, really hard. I hate it. But you would do it for other people. So they would want that too. The people that love you would want to be able to do that for you as well. And there's a little truth that I've got here, which is I can love them deeply without losing myself. So I can love them in their thing deeply and support them through this without it dragging me down as well. I think that's an important thing to remember. So those are some of the things. Going to underpin it again one more time with, and get help, because there's so many resources that can help you. People are qualified in this, working through people that have gone through burnout, working through people navigating mental health, and having that resource there is a game changer. In Australia, you can go get a mental health care plan from your GP. We explained this to our GPs. That's how we got our mental health care plans, and that heavily discounts.
Yeah, it did.
The support that you end up getting.
Yeah, I got mine free because it was through our work. You still got it discounted though. And just to say too, like we are still getting help. Like we did last year, we did that trip to New Zealand for some specific support for us. So it's we're constantly doing this, and you're even doing this now yourself with the coaching course. Like you're working with women in this space too, of helping identify stuff, because a lot of the support you get, like you do know you can look after yourself majority of the time, but a lot of the times it's like identifying what it is that's bringing us down, which is the hard thing. And that was where the support, the help that we get was the understanding of what's going on, the unpacking of actually, I've just gone through an intense work period, and then you get that professional speaking. It's like, yeah, you did go through that professional experience, work experience that was difficult, but you're also carrying all these other things that you haven't dealt with that is now catching up to you as well. So it's really helping break those things apart, equipping you with understanding, and also just giving grace, man. Like that was huge for me. The understanding of like, I'm not stupid for feeling what I feel was such a revelation, I think, for me. Yeah.
especially if you hadn't quite understood the mental health space before.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we're going to go into a reality check corner, and this is all related to burnout as well. 3 things that you can do practically in your relationship right now to check in with these things. We really don't want to just be a podcast that talks and gives information. We want to be a podcast that can encourage and equip you right now if you are up to it. So if you're keen to implement some of these things, have a listen. The first one is a reflection prompt, and that is, where might you be living in survival mode and calling it normal? What is your body trying to tell you that you've been ignoring? What is the long-term cost of pushing through like this? And this is about honesty. It's not about guilt. Burnout is quiet until it breaks you. So just this prompt of, where might you be living in survival mode and calling it normal? And the following point to that is, have that conversation with your partner. So here's a little challenge for you as well, just to implement with your partner at some stage today or in the next few days when you remember. Have a check-in point. Ask your partner at the end of the day, what felt heavy for you today? And then what felt light? And get them to ask you two really straightforward, really easy questions to ask, to check in and see how you're going. Even if you don't feel anywhere near burnout, or you don't feel this little rumbling of something going on, it's a good check-in. It's a good check-in to do with your kids after school. It's a good check-in to do with yourself, so you're reflecting at the end of the day.
And if you're like me, like, you asking yourself those questions can be hard, you know. So for me, external tools really help, but you can be that for each other too. So again, like you just said, you can ask your partner these questions. I think that's a really solid thing. It's like, cool, you guys are about to go to bed, or, you know, you get home from work or whatever, and you can ask those questions. So what felt heavy today? But like even practical things of, where in your body do you feel that, you know, and asking questions too, like, okay, long term, where is this going to impact us, right? So asking those questions is helpful, I find, if they're external, rather than you trying to go through this yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the time, I don't even know what feels heavy till you've asked me. All right, so then the last one here is a future pace, and this is basically us projecting something into the future that gives us a real sense of emotion, feeling, what we notice around us, and then borrowing that for now. So basically, I'm going to project this thing. You can sit here and have your eyes closed if you like while I read it. And I just want you to picture it as clearly as you possibly can, because we're going to borrow from that picture to help us now. So imagine it's a year from now, and what once felt heavy is now light. You found a healthy balance, one that supports you instead of draining you. What does it look like in your everyday life? Who's around you? How are you acting and reacting? What has changed? How does your body feel now that you're living from a place of rhythm, not from burnout? Now bring that feeling back into today. What's one conversation you need to have, or one thing you need to adjust with your partner to start moving in that direction? All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us in our chat about burnout. Hopefully some of this has been practical and helpful. It's been good for us to reflect. It's been helpful, I think, looking back, because sometimes it's not a fun thing to dredge up those memories.
Yeah, and again, it's sometimes very hard to admit or be okay with where you're at. Yeah. And so being okay with where you're at is the first thing. Give yourself permission to feel what you feel. That's the first part of the journey, and then you can take the next steps from there. Yeah, exactly. And if this hits home, we'd love for you to share it with a friend or leave a quick review, and have a look on our website at those resources we mentioned earlier. There are a few that would really support you in this place, but thanks for being with us, and we'll chat to you guys soon. Thanks, guys. Good chat.
Bye.
Bye.